Yep, let's get it.
Let's go.
What is it? Episode 60. Just Different Podcast. Take one. You know what I noticed?
What you noticed, bro?
Is like a lot of our episode titles are like in reference to songs. I don't think a lot of people caught.
I feel like people don't.
I feel like we've done that a few times.
We have.
I was looking. Hold on. Let me see.
I don't know if people catch it though.
Like, oh yeah, so we did If It Isn't Love.
If It Isn't Love.
That was that one, that joint by New Edition. If It Isn't Love. We did. I forgot about this one. Heartbreak Anniversary. Shout out Giveon. Yeah. How'd that go? What's that one? That's
every time.
Nah, yeah. he can't have that one. Bro.
They know it. They know it.
Wasting Time.
Yeah,
that was
Time.
Yeah, that one featuring Drake, and then let me see.
I know we got a couple. I feel like we got a couple.
Well, here recently we did In My Feelings.
In My Feelings, okay.
And then this one, Fair Trade. Yeah. But I was like, dang, we do that. We do that a lot.
Couple ones.
And I've been like thinking of more that we could do.
Yeah. I feel like it's cool.
Yeah, no, it works for sure.
It's creative. It's different.
But no, what's good? How you doing?
Shoot, I'm doing great.
I feel like I haven't really seen you in a minute.
Yeah, it does feel like that.
It's been a while. Well, I had mad like side quests and excursions like this past weekend.
You did, bro.
Yeah,
I was in the crib by myself. Nah, I'm excited. The week is about to come to an end. Tomorrow's last day of work, and it's the weekend.
Wait, so what I was thinking about, because you just mentioned that you was at home alone.
Yeah.
What do you do in the fall?
What do you do?
Because I obviously like all the festivities and all that happen in the summer. What do you do in the fall?
Like you go pumpkin patching. What's it called?
Huh?
Pumpkin picking.
What?
You know what I'm talking about when you go to the pumpkin patch.
I know what you're talking about. I don't think that's how it's referred. Like,
you know what I'm talking about. You do
patching?
that. You do that. You rake leaves.
I'm trying to think. Like, if you was to like take someone out on a date, like what would that look like?
That's the pumpkin patch. That's it.
The pumpkin patch. That's. I feel like that's the only thing coming to my mind too.
Saying.
I don't know.
Fullest extent.
Because you really inside, so I don't know what. I guess we need people.
Get some hot chocolate. Watch a movie.
I mean, sure. that works too. Though. Speaking of movies, I'm excited for. I saw that. What was it? You know what I'm talking about? Black Panther.
Yep. That's soon, ain't it? That's
very soon. Very soon. I think. We're October. I saw like the trailer. November 11th.
That's gonna be tough.
I'm really excited about that.
They did that trailer right. I promise you,
bro. Amazing. And the soundtrack with Tim's in the back was absolutely crazy. And it's got me hyped because what did we just see?
Woman King.
The Woman King.
I
haven't seen that. The Woman King was an amazing film.
It was good.
Violet Davis.
Very good.
Eats every time.
For real.
Eats every time.
Every role she's done.
She reminds me of Who Do You Like a Lot that never... Was it Denzel Washington?
Will Smith.
Oh. He's canceled right now.
Man, no, forget about that slapping mess, bro. Will Smith has never missed in any of the films he's ever
You love a Will Smith
He's
film.
never missed, bro.
You love a Will Smith
so Violet Davis.
I mean, Pursuit of Happiness is one of my favorite movies ever.
Top 5, classic.
Top 5 easily.
That's what I'm saying.
And it's a Will Smith film with his son, which is a dub. Like that's a W.
That's what I'm saying. I've never seen a bad film from him, so you're saying Viola Davis is like she's never.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like she doesn't. She has a lot of great like productions and films that she's in.
She's good at what she does.
100%. Yeah. But no, so I'm glad you're good. Everything's fine because I didn't see you for a minute. So I like it'd be weird because I be trying to come up here and ask you that, but I feel like I be seeing you all the time.
Yeah, low key. So it's like, what's the point of asking? But you actually haven't seen me.
Yeah, it's been a minute. But no, let's see. Oh yeah, we in for a minute. Let's get straight into it.
Let's go.
To the intro. So let's see. Transition and change. So we talked about this in our episode last month, Growing Pains. And in that episode, we really just talked about, in general, like how to transition through different seasons and stages of life. And then this episode, we're really going to be talking about like what that looks like in relationships. What transition, change, and evolution looks like with like the people that you've built rapport with and that you have within your life.
Exactly.
Because it's one of those things that there is really no like blueprint. There's no course. There's no book, no guide. Like nothing. No one really like took us through when we were younger and told us this is how it should be done. And whether that be on a platonic or romantic level, it's one of those things of like, okay, whenever someone decides to exit your life or you decide to remove an individual from your life, what does that look like and how do you do it well?
Right.
Because, we don't particularly see a lot of good examples of what that looks like, particularly like in the culture, just generally. Like when you think about whether that be between, we see this a lot in like music, like different like music groups that like, you know, have some like falling out, disagreement with where they want to take like the group, their careers and all that, and they kind of like just dissipate, right? You see that with a lot. I've been thinking about a lot with like even podcasts, like there's like a pod breakups, like that's the thing, right? Then you see it with, I mean, on every level, like institutions, like businesses, medias, like celebrities, actors, all of that. And so it's like a common theme or like trend and tendency of like, yo, whenever two parties are at some disagreement or decide that they don't no longer want to be in relationship with one another, like said parties after this are usually not on good terms.
Exactly.
Like it's not, you don't really see good examples of like how this transition is done well and how to do it like effectively to where like everything is cool, right? And of course there's caveats and nuance, like it depends on like what's happened, of course, right? Like
the history,
right? What's happened, but like for the most part, a lot of things that we be seeing, particularly like in the rap game too, it's just like petty little disputes and all that like could be avoided or at least avoided or at least handled like better, right? And so I think that trickles down, like that sets a standard, and it kind of trickles down to how like we do it in our own personal lives with different people.
You know, relationships are a necessity for each and every one of us. So it's a big topic, but I feel like this part of it isn't talked about a lot because, you know, we talk about how to get into relationships the right way, choose the right spouse, choose the right connections of people around. We talk about how to maintain them, but I never really see people talking about how to like effectively transition out of them. You know what I mean? And it's not the conversation people want to have. For one, it paints the idea that it could end. No one ever really wants to think about that. But my motto is like, you know, prepare for the worst, hope for the best. So I feel like this is a conversation that needs to be had. You know what I mean? And the reason why is I have an example of this. So I was in a relationship, and the transition, how I left the relationship, it was horrible. Like we were both on the same page, but the way that we went about leaving it was bad. It left a lot of unanswered questions, a lot of scars.
This is a romantic relationship? I just want to clarify for the people.
It was. And for y'all wondering, y'all on the edge of y'all seat, this was a romantic relationship. So I got out of the relationship, and what had happened was once I got into my next relationship, instead of looking at this person more of like a spouse, I was looking at this person more of they were like a bandage or like someone like tending to my wounds. You know what I mean? So all because I didn't leave that last relationship how I needed to.
Like healed. Resolved to where how I needed healthily doing it, I walked into this next one the wrong way. So that's why this conversation is just as important as others, because it will affect your outlook on all your future relationships. You know what I mean? Yeah, and for me, it's like I have a bad tendency of
talk to us.
Like it's like nuance too, but I have a bad tendency of like somewhat like ghosting people, or at least evading conversation.
That's that. Okay.
Evading that conversation. So like for me, I relatively like, you know, my guys, they know me. Like one thing I do not like to do is waste time.
Oh yeah.
I absolutely hate wasting time. So for me, like early on in a relationship, particularly whether that be like just in building a friendship or it being something like more romantic and like leading to that.
Right.
At the point, I don't see this relationship like being something that's going to be in my life for the future. Like if it's not like, I know it's something that's not going to mutually benefit one another. Not that I'm like trying to get something for them and they're trying to get something for me, but I know like we're not compatible.
Exactly.
Right. As soon as I see that, which I usually see that relatively early, I'm like, there's no point in communicating anymore.
I gotta go.
Right. Like we might as well go ahead and like cut ties and sever it. Mm-hmm. But I don't do the best job, or at least haven't done the best job of actually communicating that and having that conversation. So I kind of like, instead of like actually facing it and like being a grown up, being an adult, and saying, hey, this is where I'm at, I kind of just try to do the thing where we kind of like just naturally fall. You know what I mean?
I be forcing it naturally.
Right, you just kind of like naturally fall off. You probably don't text them, but you don't text them at all one day.
I be doing that crazy.
Right, they may hit you, do it in like 3 days, and then like it's like a week, and you're like, oh, cool. You know what I mean? Like, and so it is funny. People always want to be grown till like, you know, you actually have to do the things that are attached to that.
That's what I'm saying.
But one thing that I'm learning that I've actually had to do extremely recently is like just like actually be an adult, be a grown up, and have that conversation, right? Because sometimes it can be like weird, and you can have like a lot of anxiety or insecurity about like how they're gonna feel about it. Like sometimes it's like you like wanting like maybe to like protect them a little bit, and or like you don't want to seem like the bad guy or like whatever the case may be. But right, I just had to like take those steps of like, okay, sitting down, having the conversation, being clear about, okay, like this is where I was at, this is where I am now, this is where I want things to go in the future, and like just taking it and eating.
So you be breaking hearts?
Don't say that.
No, I feel that though. It's a hard conversation to have. So I mean, naturally, I feel the same way. Up until now, it's just like been so much easier to avoid it, right? And you do try to use the excuse of like, okay, I'm just kind of sparing their feelings, but in all reality,
but it's like it's crazy. But isn't that? And you know what's crazy though?
What?
And I've been ghosted before.
I was about to tell a story.
Yeah, so like so the funny part is it's like sometimes we think evading that conversation or not actually like just being real with that person about where we're at somehow protects them or like helps their feeling, but it actually leaves them with like more questions and more damage and like just unresolved issues, right? Particularly in especially considering how close you were with that person, and how deep a relationship you built or how close you were to them in their mind.
Exactly.
Right. And so like for me, I mentioned that because it's like I don't know why in the past like I thought that was easier when like when that same situation happened to me, it just left me with like
it's tough.
It's very tough.
It hurts more than you think it would.
Exactly. And in my head I'm like, bro, like honestly, if you just would have told me,
I would be straight, bro.
I would be like, I wouldn't even be pressed
because it's
like,
really
it's like just have a conversation with me.
It's the unanswered questions. It's the doubt. It's the what ifs. It's like a lot of stuff going on in your head when you don't. It's like a certain amount of closure you get when you have that conversation. With
right,
that
and of
person.
course it's gonna burn you. It may hurt a little bit. But my heart gonna reshape. I'm gonna be good. But at least I know, okay, this is what happened. Like, all right, like you just wasn't feeling it.
Yeah.
That's all you had to say.
That's all I needed.
Instead of just like, you know what I mean, ghosted. And then they try to spin the block sometimes. And I'm like, bro, who are you? What? But no, in all seriousness, like, yeah, sometimes it's really just about having that conversation, which just allows things to go so much smoother for both parties involved.
Bro. Communication is definitely key. I was gonna mention that, so I'm glad you brought it up. So in my situation, should I tell a story?
I mean, go ahead. I mean, you hear it now. We're not name dropping, right?
No, so basically, I'm gonna keep it short and simple. So I was really close with somebody, and this person was a mutual of them. And then I started seeing this person very frequently. Then we started texting. I was like, cool, like we should hang out or whatever. And so we hung out, and I'm not gonna lie, I had a great day, bro. I enjoyed
date.
Great day, just in general. I spent the day with this person.
Okay, I got you.
And bro, she was valid, good sense of humor, had everything I was looking for. I was like, this is the best I've felt in so long, bro. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about up here, like to the ceiling, bro. I'm good, bro.
I saw on TikTok, it was like, you know that one that trend of like the guys and they having like that thing come up behind them.
Yeah,
it was like when you smile at her text and responding too quickly first week.
It's like, calm down, bro.
Calm down, bro. Chill.
Bro, I had an amazing day. It was the best day I had in a while, bro. Mm-hmm. Guess what happened the next day?
You ain't hear nothing
at all.
Not a word.
Zero. Cold turkey. No talk at all, bro. So, I'm trying to...
And that leaves you in a weird position.
I'm saying.
Because it's like, okay, I don't want to seem as if I'm like...
thirsty.
Thirsty, but not even that. Like, I'm pressing the issue. Like, you know what I mean? You don't want to seem overbearing.
I don't want to force it. I don't want to force it.
But you first, it's a pride thing. You don't want to seem thirsty as if like you're going out of your way too much. And then two, like, out of like just respect for them, overbearing. You don't know them too much.
I don't.
They could have a busy day or something going on.
That's what I thought.
That's why you don't say anything.
So first day I didn't say anything. I was like, you know what? Because I'm a rational guy. I'm not the first like let my emotions just dictate everything. So I'm like, okay, maybe she just lost her charger or something. You feel what I mean? Second day went by. Third day, fourth day, fifth day.
Losing the charger is crazy. Losing the charger is crazy.
I got nothing, bro. And it hurt a lot worse than I thought it would. Because like we were saying, it was like I didn't have the why, bro. Right. I didn't have the reason why. Like you just like up and left. And then eventually 3 weeks later or something like that, 3 or 4 weeks later, she spun the block and spun the block, and we actually had the conversation and everything, and she explained it, and I was like, this would have been so much better if you just did this that day after we hung out.
Right.
Because I went through 4 weeks, and even till this day, it's still a part of me that's kind of like, still, I be on edge, like watching for that. Because it's like, if you just had the conversation, it would have been so much better.
Yeah. So that's definitely like the lesson in this, I guess, or at least the first piece of like advice or anything, like when it comes to transitioning well out of relationships. I think communication, like across the board in all relationships,
even when it comes to, sorry to interrupt, but when it comes to even jobs, the amount of people I hear, like people our age and young teens, that just like leave their jobs and don't say anything, no 2 weeks, no say, just like leave. I'm like, bro, like even with like a relationship like that, it's like I feel like you gotta communicate even then. Like, so it's like you said, it's all across the board. Communication is like key.
100%. And I mean, it's communication, and what we always talk about is just like being like transparent. So instead of like evading the conversation and then you like waiting for them to like ask, oh, like, so what's up? What's going on? It's just like manning up, womaning up,
taking that initiative,
right, and being real with, hey, like it's okay, like things change.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Exactly. And your interests change, you evolve. Where you were at, like when you met someone, may change, like after you get to know them more. And there should be no love lost after that, right?
Exactly.
And however they take that, that's on them. I think that was also a part of my issue. Is like I'm an empath, like I'm the one that wants to really make sure like people are always good and like they're straight, right? And we're always on good terms, and I'm seen as like the good guy in some ways, just to be real.
That's it.
And so it's like, well, I don't want us to be on bad terms.
I don't want to be known as that guy,
right? But at the same time, I mean, you can't even like actually get on any term if there's no conversation on like what that looks like.
That's fire. That's a good point.
And so I think that's one of the biggest things, just like actually just taking that step and letting them know and being real with like where you're at. And that, I mean, that solves a lot of things.
Exactly.
Right. And however that like, may subside, if that ends into like there being like a cordial relationship or not, like so be it. But at least like that happened. You know what I mean? You made that known.
Yeah, no, exactly. And something else I've noticed, and this is more with like friendships specifically, I feel like there's like this unspoken like rule or thing that you can't be friendly with people that you're no longer in friendships with. You know what I mean? And I see that so much. It's like you're friends with somebody, something happens, it's a falling out, you're in a different class, you're closer with someone else at some point, whatever happens, and it's like automatically it's like I hate this person. It's like there's no in between. Anytime I see that, it always goes there. It goes far left. And I feel like that shouldn't be the regular.
But you know what's crazy? I put down that, hold on. This is what I put down. You kind of mentioned this earlier. Yeah. Well, talk to me about what you're going to say, but I forgot. I said we take so much pride in burned bridges.
We do.
We take I don't know what it is.
I don't know.
It's like, and it's almost a natural propensity. That's not the right
word. I think I've heard that one before.
It's just like we're like almost prone naturally to pettiness in a way, right? It's like we take so much pride in burned bridges, and we always reserve our right to be hurt. And so, what's this post that's been going around? I'm sure y'all seen before, but it says, we're like in a culture, in a time where like matching energy's big. Yeah. Like, you wanna do me like that, or like, okay, bet, I got you. Yeah. And or like, I don't even know what else, but like I saw this post and it said, matching energy is why everybody miserable. You don't clean dirt with dirt.
That's tough,
right? And so it's like I don't know what it is, but and I get it, because sometimes like when like somebody burns you, or there may be a disagreement, like we all have like this natural propensity of that pride that comes out. It's like, okay, bet, I got you. Or like, you want to do that? Yeah. I see that, and we gonna do this passive aggressive like jabs and stuff like that. I do that. I'm not gonna hold y'all.
The passive aggressive,
right? Like the passive aggressive jabs and stuff to like get back at them or make them feel how they've like done to you, essentially. And so I think that like it's almost like natural, and because we had this conversation, because we don't see enough good examples of how friendships or relationships in general transition well for people to be on good terms, we have no language for it.
We don't even think it could be done.
We don't think it's possible because we don't see it enough. And so it's like, it's normalized and very natural to be on bad terms with most of the people you've had previous relationships with. Like it seemed like it's normal. Like it's like you talk to someone, I'm like, no, we ain't talk no more at all. I don't even want to see them no more, and that's normal.
It's normal,
right? Like that's like that's like cool. But like one thing about that is, it's important to like resolve these issues, because I think, and this goes kind of in the conversation of like forgiveness a bit too, or however it works out. Because of course, asterisk right here, this all depends on like what transpired within like these relationships. Now, of course, if there's things that like, of course, if there was things that happened that were like obviously like unspeakable and things that like, right, that we can all agree on, like X, right, then like that relationship just be completely like just removed. But outside of that, in terms of like civil disagreements, things y'all didn't see eye to eye on, X, Y, and Z down the line, that's what we're talking about. But anyway, it's important for you to resolve this because it's really for your peace more than anything.
Exactly.
Because whenever you continue to see some person and all those feelings continue to like come back up from like whatever transpired in the past, that takes away from like your focus, where you're at, what you're doing. And so like having like these conversations, communicating with them, like will obviously like help you with that at the end of the day.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think we just got to change the status quo, bro. We need to, because I think it's very possible to be like friendly with people you're not in, you know, close relationships with. So yeah, I thought that's a good point.
Yeah, and not everything necessarily deserves like good terms either.
Yeah,
right.
It just depends.
Right, like you need to like be on good terms with them, but like just in terms of like ending a relationship. Like
sometimes things just expire. Sometimes you just grow up, you move on, and we just have to be realistic with that, bro.
Right, and here's another thing, and we said this. Shout out Drizzy. What do you say? All my let's just be friends are friends I don't have anymore. And so back to what I'm saying, in terms of like good terms, it doesn't mean that y'all have to be extremely friendly or even consistently communicating at all anymore. But just there's a clear understanding of where this relationship stands now.
Right.
That's really it, because that's real too. I feel like we say that a lot, particularly like when in a failed talking stage or someone that we were romantic, like, you know, getting to the point where we're getting more romantic with. It was like, oh, okay, like this didn't work or we're not in the best place in the world, but like let's just be friends.
Yeah.
Which in that lyric, that's why I hit so hard. When I think about my own life, all my let's just be friends I don't talk to them at all.
I don't speak to them
at all. And that's not a necessarily bad thing, but I think like let's just be friends is more code for like we're good.
Exactly.
Right?
Like,
but I think we just need to express that. I think that's probably like, you know, coded in that message, but like being even more clear on that of like, okay, hey, we don't have to like, I think that's sometimes the default too. Sometimes it's like, hey, we don't have to be like super cool buddy. Yeah. Right? This is where this is what happened. Like we can just be cordial. Like we see each other, say hi, cool, so wish the best for another, and that's all right.
So it's more so about being on the same page and less about we have to be like cool, like best friends. Yeah, that's what the communication piece in this whole conversation is like. It's really more. Make sure you're on the same page, bro. Even if that's we don't speak, just make sure y'all both understand that, and that y'all on the same page. That's really all it's about. And I had a thought. This was like a couple weeks back, but I wanted to bring it up because it applies to this conversation. You kind of mentioned it earlier. It goes into the communication thing, but it's about perspective. And this is like a wall I've run into when trying to have these conversations with people. Is like I had my reasons, and I had reasons I felt were valid, and I was trying to explain it to them. And it's like sometimes they just don't understand the why. You know what I mean? And sometimes they're not going to. But I think it's really about, like I said, perspective. And perspective is weird because, so for example, say I think I need to move on because you're holding me back, but you're looking at it from a totally different angle and you think that you've actually helped me. In that situation, it's like we're both right. Like if we're going based off of how we're feeling, neither of us are wrong, which is why it makes it so tricky because like no man is wrong in his own eyes. You know what I mean? So
that's good.
So it's like when I'm explaining my why, a lot of people just aren't going to get it. And sometimes you have to step away from trying to explain to them why and get them to like the where I'm looking at it from. So like if there's this big picture and I'm standing right here looking at it and you're all the way over in that corner, we're not going to be looking at it the same. So perspective is big, and that's something I had to understand with the whole communication thing. It's like sometimes people just aren't going to understand because they're not in your shoes and they don't see how you see it. So for example, there was this girl I was in a relationship with. It was a pretty long relationship, and I felt like I had to let her go because she was kind of holding me back spiritually with my relationship with God, I felt like. And I was trying to explain that to her. She didn't get it because she was looking at it more of a lens of like the stuff that she was giving to me, like in a physical sense. Like she would support me, you know, she would, you know, buy food for me, material things. So when I was explaining it, she didn't understand it because like it was two different perspectives. So all you can do is try to get them to your perspective, and if they don't get there, they don't. Sometimes it's just like that. People don't understand. They don't want to. You can't force them to, but you have to do your due diligence and try your best to minimize, like do your best to communicate as well as you can. That's all it comes down to.
That's good. That didn't even cross my mind. That even like there's so much nuance to this conversation that brings even deeper.
Yeah.
That's what also could cause a lot of the fallout and the division and the discourse is the fact that, well, they like not seeing eye to eye. on why things had to end.
Exactly.
And so yeah, and like I said, sometimes it's not always that, and that's why it's not always good terms. It's just like you said, just understanding where we're at now, because there's a lot of situations like that where like, okay, like the reasons why you need to step away from this may not be reasons they feel like are valid. Right. And so be it. I mean, they should obviously have enough respect to like, just respect where you're at with that. But if they can't agree with that and that causes even further like division or whatever, what I mean? Like I said, you can only do so much in that, and just making sure that you're transparent with where you're at. And I think I was going to say, yeah. So I think that's good. And I didn't even like really think about that in my mind.
Yeah, no, I thought that because that was a wall I've run into at some point, and I would beat myself up for it, and I would blame myself, like, dang, like, was I not clear enough, or you know what I mean, stuff like that. And I was like blaming myself, but I just really had to understand it's like I tried my best to explain it. It was like they just don't get it. They don't get it.
Oh, and also that's what I was gonna say. Yeah, if they don't get it, they don't get it. And two, people, they don't always need a reason. Like, is that fair to say? Like you don't owe, like people always say, you don't owe anybody an explanation.
Right.
I don't know how I feel about that actually, but like you don't always owe people like the most detailed or in-depth like reasoning or rationale for why you did what you did, particularly if it's a very toxic situation, right?
If it's a toxic situation, for sure.
Right. Well, and again, it just depends.
Because outside of that, if we're talking like, if it's like a long-term thing, then I think you owe them an explanation.
True.
If it's just a friendship or something that's like very casual, you don't necessarily have to go out your way to have 2-hour conversations.
Yeah, but like you said, I think it's to the point of like never like go to the extent of like beating yourself up or feeling like you're under so much just like guilt or some weight you have to carry around.
Exactly.
Because you don't know how to necessarily probably explain it the way you want to, or they're not receiving it the way you desire things to.
Yeah.
Right. So that's kind of really the point in that of like, not everything needs the like deepest explanation all the time, depending on the situation.
Yeah, I agree.
But just never put yourself in a place to where like you're feeling bad for being. Dang, bro, my bad. These allergies, y'all, bro. It's not even allergies. It's just like the way the season changed.
Bro, you've been living off these cough drops the last week.
No,
bro.
seriously, y'all, I apologize. But it's just never putting yourself in a position to where you feel bad for being transparent. Now, of course, you're gonna feel that little like, because at the end of the day, you may have ripped somebody's heart out a little bit. Because that's me. Like I'd be like,
that's what I'm saying,
man. And that's just because like you care.
At the end of the day, you care about them.
You care about them.
Honestly, if you don't feel anything after that conversation, you gotta read. Like, what's wrong with you? Like, you just didn't care about them at all.
But that's that feeling.
Yeah.
But anything more than that of like weight that you're taking on, that's not.
You don't need
do not
to
carry that.
Yep.
Do not carry that at all. That's a fact.
I think all this stuff is also important to understand if you're ever on the receiving side of any of this as well, because we've been talking about more of like if you're the person initiating the conversation, but as a person like receiving the conversation, also keep all this stuff in mind too. You know what I mean? I think that's important because we've been talking from like a specific like viewpoint, but.
Well, we can talk about receiving them a little bit. I think it's another. Well, it's not really another conversation. It's adjacent, but I think that like, man, this is harder.
It's very
it's a lot harder. Cause
like say you're the person and you don't agree. Like they're coming to you with like, I don't think this will work out because of this, but you're like happy as can be. You know what I mean? Like
right, exactly. True. That's difficult. That's difficult. I think. I mean, that's hard because there's really nothing more you can do in that situation. I think it's like that goes more into like you then starting a process of like personal healing, right? I think like on the initiative end, it's like you taking a step to like first one, like you taking that step of communicating with that other person. Yeah, and then on the receiving end, it's more like you now doing what you need to do what's doing what's best for you, right? And moving from there, because it's like, if someone's coming to you and saying, hey, this is not something like I no longer want, like I no longer desire, or something I don't see like going further, it's like, man, like this hurts.
It does.
Right. And this is probably really where the petty stuff comes in, because I think a lot of people have a hard time with like, maybe rejection is it.
Okay. I think
rejection.
it is. I think it's rejection.
Right. Which low key is another episode, so we can save that. Like that's a whole other conversation. Honestly,
low key can.
That's actually another conversation. But I think it's just like the hardest part of that is like respecting that decision, even when you disagree.
Yep.
And it not turning into like you now demonizing their character.
Exactly.
Like they're in a different position, and of course, like depending on situation to situation.
It depends on the situation. Right.
But if it's like them just being real, then like how can you fault them for that? Because it's like because like we said earlier, like let's go like. I'd rather you tell me than ghost me, but then I get hurt. Then I'm butthurt. Yeah. You know what I mean? Then I want to be petty whenever you actually tell me.
Yeah, it's a double-edged
sword.
It is, bro. It is, but that's just something you got to be willing to like confront. How do I want to word it? I think it's weird because it's like just because someone is hurting you doesn't mean their intention. Like I don't know how to explain it, bro. Like. Just because someone's hurting you doesn't automatically, in this sense, doesn't automatically make them like the worst person in the world. If they genuinely are in a place where they feel like they need to move on from you, we automatically take it to like, oh, you never cared about me, I hate you, you lied, all the stuff you said, and it's like that doesn't mean they don't care about you. It's just like sometimes, like I said, just stuff changes in their minds, where they're at in their life, and it's like we can't just automatically take it to like, oh, you don't care about me. Because I'm thinking about it because I've been on the end of that, and people would be like, oh, you never cared about me, like you lied, you're a horrible person. I'm genuinely sitting there like, bro, I thought I was doing what was best for me and you. So it's like when we're on the receiving end of that, it's hard, but like you said, just try your best to respect it. You know what I mean? That doesn't necessarily mean they're the worst person in the world.
Yeah,
or they never cared.
You can respect it, and that doesn't mean that you have to agree. It doesn't mean that you have to be in the best mood or feeling about the transition that's happening. But it's just something that you do definitely have to accept, because I think a lot of people don't get to the point to even actually accepting it.
Yeah,
right. Because
that's good.
Actually, even accepting that, like, oh, like this is why, or this is why it happened. So you're carrying that around all the time.
Exactly. That's good. I remember I heard Tim Ross said, you don't have to agree with something God says to be obedient. And I think translating that is you don't have to agree with that decision for you to accept it. You know what I mean? So yeah.
But that's a little tangent. That's another conversation.
It is.
Actually,
it is.
I
just wanted to put a little twist on it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that could be next week. I like that though. I didn't think about that. But anyways, you got anything else in terms of this conversation of transition and evolution within relationship, right? On all ends, because I feel we talked about both, like you know, just generally of like platonic or whether that be romantic, but anything else you was thinking.
I think we just have to mature, like emotionally, like I don't know, and just understand that some things run their course. Like I feel like I've mentioned this before, but it's just the reality of once you step into a relationship, understanding that there's a possibility that this relationship could end, and being honest about this conversation we're having right now, like preparing for something like this. And like I said, sometimes we try I wouldn't say that. Like
not prepared, but I'm saying like
but
I wouldn't even. I don't know. Maybe I see what you're saying. I don't think.
You think it's pessimistic?
I think it's more pessimistic to think like that.
You think so?
I think what you're saying is true. It just sounds weird. Maybe
I think it's very possible to.
But I feel like that shouldn't be like. Not that you're saying this. I just feel like that shouldn't be on the forefront of your mind.
Okay, that's fair.
Right, like when you step into a relationship, definitely be. This is why sometimes it hurts.
Yeah.
But definitely be like hopeful. Like don't put all your eggs in like one basket and like just give yourself completely away to like this person or the hope in the situation. But definitely be optimistic about, ooh, this could be something. Or be excited. Or particularly obviously if it's something that's like healthy, working as someone that you genuinely enjoy. Be excited, be interested, be into this for the time. You know what I mean? I just don't think that you should just be like, I'm gonna prepare for like, an ending. I think sometimes that causes more problems than it like.
Yeah, I was wording it the wrong way. You worded it better than I did.
I see what you're saying though.
Because the way I see a lot of relationships go these days is like people don't have any of their eggs in this basket. Like this basket I'm talking about of like this could end, there's no eggs in it at all. So it's like once it gets to that point, that's where all the devastation comes, that's where all the confusion comes, that's where all the, you know what I mean, all the that's where all that comes in.
But I think it's fair though, because it's not like when you get into a relationship, it's not like you're expecting it to end. Do you feel? Think about yours. Think about yours. Think about yours, though.
You shouldn't expect it to end, but it's like, I don't know how to explain it, bro.
Like, look, think about your relationship though, and all the ones that ended. Like, you didn't necessarily like.
I didn't go into it thinking, oh, this is going to end.
For a fact.
Yeah.
So I just don't think someone should do that.
That's valid.
But
That's
I see
valid.
your point in terms of like.
Maybe I'm scarred.
But I think it's. I don't even like being prepared. Not even being prepared, because to prepare is something that you're actively thinking about. I just think that, like you said, there's a balance. I just think that, okay, like, you're going into this with hope, and if right, this is something that does transition and or end, right, then like, so be it, right? We'll deal with that when that comes, right? And now, like, you have the knowledge and the whereabouts to understand what that conversation looks like, how we need to go about it, right? And we transition well in whatever the next stage of this relationship is.
I think that's more so how I meant it. You're wording what I'm thinking correctly. I was just like, when I said prepared, I was the wrong choice of words. I think it's really more so like, you just have to be like emotionally mature enough to like handle that when the time comes.
There
like,
it is.
That's what it is. Not necessarily prepare for it to happen, but just like, that's what I meant by, because I started off by saying we need to be more emotionally mature. That's what I meant by that. Because when it comes, it's like we handle it terribly. And it's like, so maybe the solution isn't preparing, but just like making sure you're emotionally mature.
Yeah, which is takes time, and just like understanding yourself.
And,
like,
and situations it takes.
Of course, but like, I like that. Just being emotionally sure right? Because I don't even want to put like that inevitable of like, all things are going to change. Now, of course, there's inevitably going to be, that's why this conversation is important. There's inevitably going to be relationships in your life that do transition, right? So in those relationships, right? So I think I like what you're saying. It was too micro.
Yeah.
Macro. In those relationships that do transition and will end, which is inevitable, we have to be emotionally like available and mature to know like how to do that well, right? And it takes a lot, and it takes a lot of discipline and humility. This is the last point.
Talk to me.
Oh, yeah. Dang, we long.
Talk to me.
This is the last point. It takes a lot of humility and self-control and humility, because my natural inclination when someone comes to me, right?
Yeah.
Or on both sides. So whenever I initiate that conversation,
right,
it takes a lot of like discipline, right, to put your feelings aside about how you want to go about it. Like, so for me, like, my natural propensity is just like, okay, I'm going to ghost. Let me just gradually take some steps back, slowly, week by week, until it just goes off. It takes discipline, right? Understanding of myself and care for that person to, hey, let me initiate this conversation, right? And courage, right? So let me actually initiate this conversation. Sure. Let me grow up, right? Be the quote unquote big, like, no, that's not even the right phrase, but like, let me be an adult here.
Exactly.
Let me be mature here, rather, right? And have this conversation. And on the back end, hey, if I'm receiving this and I'm going through the situation of someone saying, hey, like, I'm going through this transition and I don't think like this relationship where it stands is the best anymore.
Yeah.
I need to, like, again, have that same type of self-control, because naturally, like, I just want to be like, yo, why, like, X, Y, and Z, like, no, you shouldn't do this, like, you're X, Y, and Z, like, you know what I mean, kind of like pop off,
exactly,
right? Which is natural. Like, you should be having all those feelings, obviously, for something that you cared about and that was close to you, but, like, taking some deep breaths, right, having that maturity to hear that person out, respect where they're coming from,
exactly,
right, and then, you know, like, taking the necessary steps afterwards.
Exactly.
Obviously, like, make sure like you're healing correctly, and not just wanting to like lash out, and allowing this moment and this person to take away your peace right now and in the future. That's the biggest part of this whole conversation of like, it's about peace. So when I see this person name come up, what are all the thoughts associated with it? What are the conversations that come up? What are the feelings, the moods, everything you associate with this person every time you see them or you hear them, right? That really is the indicator on like how well you healed. So that's why the conversation is important, and how you receive it is important, right? Because this is about like, okay, this transition, cool. Where am I at now with it?
Yeah.
And how am I going to resolve this so it's not affecting my purpose, what I'm walking into, what God wants for me, and my future relationships in the future, future relationships that will come.
That's big.
So yeah.
Oh, that's valid for sure.
So that's what I would say. And there's so much to this, but yeah, we may do like a rejection thing. I think that would be going like opposite end because that'd be a good conversation. But sure. You got anything else for the people?
No, I think that's it, bro.
All right, man. Look, we appreciate y'all. We got some news.
What's good?
I mean, we're not gonna tell them now.
Oh, I thought I was gonna wait for you.
We got news and a lot of things coming. So I'm excited, bro. We appreciate y'all tuning in, all the support, all the love.
Always.
So look, stay you,
stay real,
and stay humble. We'll catch y'all next week. Much love.